All right, what's going on, Nick? How you doing today?
Feeling good, feeling good. Ready to jump into whatever you want to talk about.
Perfect. So this is one of our real estate growth forum Titan interviews, and I'm
Ooh.
super happy to be here with an actual real estate Titan. Nick and his team sell over 550 homes per year. That's right, 550. And he's been in the business for over 20 years. And anyone who's been in the business for more than 20 days knows that that's a feat. So I'm super excited to you know get into this conversation with my friend Nick. I say friend like loosely. We were having lunch in Vegas earlier this year. He invited
Work conference. It was a work conference. Just make
it,
sure that's out there.
it was a work conference. That's right. That's right. And I happened to have some really sweet shoes on that I bought for my 40th birthday, and they were very expensive Nikes. But I was winning gambling, and so I bought them for my 40th birthday. I splurged, and he did make fun of my shoes. Him and another one of our good friends made fun of my shoes. But
If
aside
your
from that, he's a
if your
pretty good guy.
friends can't pick on you, then who are they?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So Nick, I gave a really brief intro. Why don't you just walk us through and 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes or so, like what got you into real estate, and then how'd you get to where you're at?
Yeah, got it. So I like that you're giving me a chance to really kind of dig into what I did because people are like, oh, you're selling over 500 homes. You guys, you've been doing this for 20 years,
You're
and I'm the
lucky.
first. What's that?
You're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm the first person to tell you, yeah, but for the first 12 years of that, I sucked. First 12 years of that, I was selling 35, 40 homes a year. I wasn't selling 500 homes for my entire 20 years. In fact, 12 years out of it, I was struggling. And it wasn't until like the 13th and then 14th and then 15th that you really started to see that hockey stick growth. And I think too many of us fall under this precept that, oh, look at them. They're crushing it. It just comes natural for them. It's just easy for them. And I'm living proof that it was not. I was bad. And it took years and years of failing to get where I am today. And I think that's the better conversation, the better story is like, what did that look like? What did all that failure look like as you screwed up over and over and over again?
So 20 years, you must have started when you were like 15, right?
I love you for that. I love you. I have a lot of gray hair, but I keep it short so you can't see it.
So how'd you get into the business? Like, what were you doing before real estate?
Yeah, so I was in franchise sales. I was an area developer for Cold Stone Creamery. It was like the Starbucks of ice cream back in 2001, 2, 3. We had a thriving business. We covered about 5 states and we were opening 50, 60 stores every single year. And
Wow.
I pictured that as my career. Like that's where I was going. And I had the role in that company as a partner. I was doing all the real estate. So you wanted to open up a Cold Stone. I helped you find the real estate, found a great location. We opened it. Another one of my partners came in and helped you with construction. Another partner came in and helping with opening and running the store. So that was kind of our process. So I fell in love with the franchise model. Like you make it the same burger in Baltimore as in Beijing. Like at McDonald's, it's all the same because the franchise follows a model. So I love that, and that's where I pictured I would be. I was working one day, and it just hit me that my boss, my mentor, someone who had taught me for the last 10 years, pretty much everything I know about sales and business, was sleeping with one of the girls we work with. And I was bummed. Like this guy is such a mentor to me. He's married, 3 kids. Like it crushed me. And I went into his office and I said, look, it's got to stop. You can't do that. You got to go to your wife. You got to work on this. Like we've got to solve it. And he didn't want anything to do with that. He was like, get out. It's not your business. Just get out. And I remember thinking, that's not the person I want to be partners with. I've known him for a long time. I have so much respect for him. And instantly it was all gone. So I walked out the door. I called my mom because that's what everybody does. And my mom was in real estate at the time. And I said, hey, I'm actually thinking about getting out of the Cold Stone thing and getting into real estate. What do you think? And she was instantly like, oh my God, it's like 2004. She's like, it's such a great time to real estate. I will teach you everything. You're going to love it. That would be so great. Come into real estate. So I got my buyout and sold all my Cold Stones back to the company. And I walked away from what was a growing lucrative business because I just morally couldn't be partners with somebody who was doing something that I would just wasn't me. So I left there, went into real estate. My mom was so excited. And if you think about that, like, oh, it's my mom, this is going to be great. And my mom was like, she's a great woman. She taught us from a young age. She was like, you want a car? And I was like, yeah, I'm turning 16. I would love a car. She was like, great, go get a job. When you have enough money, you can buy one. And I was like, oh,
wah, wah.
Yeah, okay. So then I worked my tail off and I had all these different side jobs and I had like $4,000 and my mom said, I'll give you 2 more and you can buy this $6,000 car. And I was thrilled. And I washed it every weekend because she made me earn it. And then I appreciated it so much more. So I got into real estate, forgetting about the car lesson. And I said, Mom, teach me everything. And she said, I want to tell you, I'm going to be your mentor. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. I'm going to help you with every problem. I'm going to be the person you're always available and always able to come to. But I'm not going to give you business. You're not going to take any of my clients. We're not going to be partners. We are going to run 2 separate businesses. My business is my business. You've got to create yours from the ground up. And I thought, it's my mom. Of course she's going to give me business. This is going to be great. And sure enough, she never once, like a call would come in and she'd say, hey, that's my lead. That's not your lead. They're calling off of my list. And I would be like, hold on. And like what it did is it taught me that I had to be self-sufficient. So I'm on my own here and I'm working and I'm growing and I'm getting good and I'm getting better at sales and I'm finding people. And like my sales methods, lead generation methods were like go to happy hours and play sports, like all the different social sports. I'd play on a football team, a volleyball team, a soccer team, a dodgeball team, like whatever it was. Those were my people that I could get to know and then go sell houses to. So that's how I built my entire business with the help of someone that I could call 24 hours a day, but would not hand me anything. And that really taught me work ethic. It really taught me that I had to be in charge of building my business. And I quickly became one of the top single agents in our office at a very young age. And I started thinking, man, I'm killing it. I sold 30 homes. I sold 35 homes. I sold 40 homes. This is great. And I was like, man, but Ruth over there, she's about 100. Ruth sold 70. I'm like, how do I get to Ruth's level? I want to be number one. I want my name on the parking spot up front. So I went to Ruth and I said, Ruth, I want to beat you. And she said, oh, Nick, I'll tell you the secret. You need to be in the office every day before anybody. You need to spend your entire morning lead generating. You should have appointments all afternoon, and then you should be showing property at night. You do this Monday through Friday. Saturday, I want you to have your full calendar of people to show houses to, and on Sunday, do 1 or 2 open houses. And then Monday, you start all over again. And I was like, Ruth's life sounds miserable. She's 100 years old and still doing this every single day, like living and breathing work. So that was probably the moment where I was like, maybe I don't want to be the number one agent in our company. I don't want that life. So I started looking for ways to leverage. I started looking for ways to grow without giving up 100% of my time.
I got to jump in here real quick, because I think some people, before they heard you're like, I don't want to do that. Some people are like, okay, that's my hope. Like I can work 7 days a week or whatever. Like how quickly did you realize that's not the life for you?
Okay, let's just be honest. I'm not very bright, right? So I'm going to get a little personal if you're open to it. I had a girlfriend and we were getting along great. And over time, we'd have some heated discussions as you do. And I remember the last heated discussion we had, and she said, in a huff, you are a terrible boyfriend. all you do is work, all you care about is work, and you're going to be a terrible husband. And she slammed the door. And I thought, she's crazy. I'm killing it at work. So then my next girlfriend, we get into a heated discussion. She starts stomping off to the door, and I'm thinking, this seems familiar.
I've seen this.
She gets to the door. She says, you're a terrible boyfriend. All you do is work. All you care about is work, and you're going to be a terrible husband. And she slams the door. And I thought, she's crazy. Third girlfriend, because remember, it takes a while for me. I'm very slow.
Sure.
Third girlfriend, she starts stomping off to the door, heated discussion, and I am like, oh, wait. Let me write down your script for you. I already know what you're going to say. Let me give you this piece of paper. Jokingly, of course. I didn't say that. She gets to the door. She turns around. She said, you're a terrible boyfriend. All you do is work. All you care about is work. You're going to be a terrible husband, and you're going to be a terrible father. Ooh, that was the one. That was like the moment where I was like, no. She slammed the door, and I was speechless. And I didn't have the greatest father figure when I was growing up, and I didn't have somebody that was around all the time. And I realized in that moment, that's not going to be me. I am not going to be that father. And it was as a single guy with dating no one, because that relationship is over. I decided in that moment that I needed to build a business so that I could be a great father and not try to be salesman of the year and give up my family, my wife, my kids, all that stuff. So that was the moment for me.
So something I want people to hear here is that you had that was obviously in the moment you don't want your girlfriend to leave you. Like that hurts. That hurts. But sometimes it's those depth moments, like those dark moments, those moments where you're like, whoa, where you actually get the most clarity.
Yep.
Right. So if you're, watching this right now and you're thinking, gosh, like I'm failing at this or I'm failing at that, or I've struggled with this or struggled with that. Like, is this an opportunity for you to take stock in where you're at today and what you want differently? And then, of course, once you know what you want differently, then you can obviously take the actions to get it. So you made a choice. You're like, I'm not going to be a terrible father. I'm not going to be a terrible husband.
Yeah.
Right. So that has shaped when you saw, Ruth, was it Ruth? Is that her name?
Yeah.
When you saw Ruth,
trying to think of a really old lady name, and I think Ruth.
Okay. We're going to leave her, anonymous. But when you saw this person, you realize right away, like, I can't live that life. That's not the life I'm choosing.
Yeah. The reason I was chasing that goal is 100% ego. 100% ego is why I wanted that. And when I actually broke it down, it wasn't the top salesperson spot that I wanted. It was her success and her money. Like, I wanted to make that much money. I wanted to have that lifestyle. I wanted to drive that nice car. All the things that you think you care about when you're younger. And that's what I wanted. So I stopped and I said, well, do I have to be the number one salesman and do it all myself and give up all my free time? Or is there another way? So the result didn't change. I wanted to sell a ton of real estate. I wanted to make a lot of money, but the difference was what I didn't want to give up was all of my time. And that was the moment. And I'm in my mid 20s at this point, 26, 27. And now I'm on the hunt for leverage. I'm going to hire my first assistant. And my mom was like, I've been selling real estate for 35 years. I don't have an assistant. You're 27. What are you talking about? I'm like, I don't care what you say. I'm building a business. And I went out and hired my first assistant. She was terrible, and I fired her. So I hired a second assistant, and I ran out. I sold a bunch of homes, and I came back in the office. I said, what did you do? She said, nothing. I said, you're fired. Then I hired a third assistant, and I ran out and sold a bunch of houses, and I came back, and I said, what have you done? And she was like, not much. And I'm like, you're fired. And then it clicked. All three of them were probably great hires. I'm a terrible boss. I'm the one struggling. I never gave them direction. I never spent time setting expectations. I never created systems for them to follow. We never worked together to build what it looked like on the back end. And now I'm like, holy crap, I'm a business owner. I'm not a salesman anymore. I'm a business owner, and I need to do both now. I need to do sales, but I need to build this business. So then my next hire, who's still with me to this day, 14 years later, that's who I realized, man, it is more about me pouring into you than you taking anything off of me. So I changed my perspective, and it just takes failure after failure after failure to get that light bulb moment to go, this is what I'm
So
missing. Okay, now I'm going to do it.
one of the consistent things I'm hearing in this is like you actually took ownership in where you were.
Mm-hmm.
You were blaming like, hey, this girlfriend's bad. Oh, this girlfriend's bad. This girlfriend's bad. And you're like, this assistant's bad. This assistant's bad. This assistant's bad. And then finally had this idea that maybe it's me.
Yeah.
And that's where change actually comes from.
It's not even maybe it's me. If you're doing this, you're wrong. What ownership do you have in it? What DNA do you have in it? No matter what happens. Like if you have I'm just thinking a very personal story I could possibly tell you. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm such an open book, but my first marriage, my wife cheated on me. And in the beginning, I was like, you did this. I can't believe you, blah, 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 blah. And then over time, I started to realize, well, what did I do? Where did I show up? Where is my DNA in it? How was it? It's not 100% anyone's fault. In fact, part of it was my fault. And it allowed me to forgive her, move on, and feel 100% fine with it, because I started to realize that there's a combination in everything. It is not always somebody else. In fact, we can't control what other people do. If we take responsibility ourselves, if I'm driving to meet Chase and I get in a car accident and I'm 30 minutes late, whose fault is that? It's mine. I could have left earlier. I could have did a better job driving, not been distracted. There's a million different things that I can say I had DNA in. And instead, I want to blame somebody else. I want to always blame somebody else. And I think when we take 100% responsibility for ourselves, that's when we start to really get ahead in life. And we start to think it's not anyone else's problem. Hey, I called that person 3 times and they didn't call me back. It's their fault. Nope, you probably should have called 12 times. And if they didn't answer, you should have driven over there. And if that what didn't work, you should have spent more time finding somebody else who did want it. Like, it's 100% your responsibility. People hate hearing that. I hated hearing that. But over time, you start to realize that that's it.
Well, the beauty of what you're saying, Nick, is that if you accept responsibility, then you keep control.
Mm-hmm.
But if you give away the responsibility, you blame it on them, you're giving away your control.
Yep.
Which means now you're just like, whatever happens to me happens to me. It's not my fault. Now you're like a leaf blown in the wind. So let's keep moving here. I'm very interested. You said you sold 30 or 40. By the way, selling 30 or 40 homes, a lot of agents who are watching this would be like, that's not a failure. I mean, when you compare it to 550, obviously it's a lot different, but you were up against a ceiling. So what happened? Like, how'd you break through that 40 homes a year ceiling? What changed?
Yeah. So I realized I couldn't do it all. So I started by making a list of all the things I didn't like doing. I hated calling a lender and saying, hey, how are things going with the file? Calling the title company, hey, anything wrong with the title? Calling the inspector, hey, can you be here at 2:00 on this day? All these calls and follow-ups and checking to make sure EMD got landed and all these different things. And oh my gosh, we missed this initial. Let's go back and get this done. Or there's a new page to the contract we need to add. Like, all that stuff was like, I hated it. I want to be, glad handing, high fiving people. I want to be out showing homes. Like, I want to be playing in a social sport and saying, oh, Chase, where are you living now? Oh, you're renting? Blah, blah. Like, that was my passion. That's where I wanted to be. I hated being in the office doing the work. And most of the time I'd be doing it at like 11 o'clock at night when I can't talk to people. So I would do all my paperwork or do all that stuff. And then my nights were miserable because all I was doing was working. So I realized that was the first thing I had to offload. All the things I didn't like doing it. So the paperwork, the transaction management, all of that stuff had to go. And then I realized
the action item, if you're hitting a ceiling, is like, what are you doing that maybe you're not good at or you don't want to do? And document it, right?
Yeah, and it's an energy thing. There are certain tasks that we do that give us energy. And there are certain tasks that we do that drain energy. So when you start making a list I also want you to write down where your energy is on that list. I was doing this task and I felt amazing. I was doing this task and it was miserable. There's a very good chance the ones that draw energy away from you are the ones you need to get rid of. However, there's always one or two that you have to continue doing. I have to look at my P&Ls every single month. I have to review all of my numbers. I have to know what's going on in my business. Do I love it? No, but it is one of the most important things I do. So that one doesn't get traded away. What I do is I have somebody else produce the reports, somebody else put all the numbers together, somebody else bring the package to me, so that I'm not doing the entire thing, but I'm doing the most important part of it. And that's helped a ton too.
So one of these pieces I think that would be important to inject here is like certain activities produce certain results.
Yeah, 80-20.
So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, you said I can't offload my P&L, for example, reviewing that. What were some of the, how did your dollar per hour change as you started to replace certain things in your life?
All right. So I'm going to do this without a whiteboard, which makes it a little bit more difficult to follow, but I think you guys are pretty smart. You'll be able to handle it. NAR tells us, National Association of Realtors, the average transaction takes 45 hours from start to finish. And if we break that down, I'll give you about an hour to lead generate. So if I told you right now, pause this, pick up your phone, and call for an hour until you find a friend or somebody that you know that wants to buy or sell real estate. All of us could do it. So it's about an hour. Once we find that person, they're not ready to buy this weekend. They're probably ready a year from now. And we need to call them every month for the next 12 months, 5-minute conversation. That's another hour. Now, once they want to go start seeing houses, we don't take them out one time, find the house, and we're done. We probably take them out and show them 3 houses. They don't like those 3. We get better understanding what they want. We take them out again, 3 more. They like one of them, but they also want to see this one more. We go out and send them 3 more. And then all of a sudden, we've spent 9 hours with them on that. We negotiate the deal, maybe an hour. And now there's this whole transaction management. That's the majority of what we do. And it is, the contract, the title, the lending, the inspections, all that stuff wrapped up from start to finish. Now we attend settlement. So we go to settlement and we glad hand and we work for referrals. And that takes about an hour. When you add all that stuff up, the transaction management of the 45 hours is 15 of it. So that's the number one thing you offload. If I can take all of my transactions and go from spending 45 hours to spending 30 hours, now I have an extra 15 hours. I can use that to go out and lead generate and get more business. And the next house I get is only going to take me 30 hours because remember, I've already hired that away. So that's my first step in building my dollar per hour. So now,
jumping in on that real quick, like obviously paying someone to do that task for you.
Yep.
What's that cost?
It depends on your market, but you want a full-time person. If you say, I have somebody in my market and they do it for $400 a transaction, great for a short amount of time, but that's not going to run on. That's not going to be good when you're doing 100 or 200.
So if you're looking to scale, you need to bring them in-house.
Yeah.
Got it.
You bring them in-house and you give them 2 jobs. One, transaction management, and the other one is database and marketing. They help stay on top of your database, all of your marketing, client appreciation parties. They run all of that for you. And you do that until you hit a certain number where they can't do both. They can't run all your transaction management and keep up with your marketing and database. So now you hire a second one. So my second hire is still people that are in that role. It's not an agent, not a buyer's agent, nothing. From that point, you go to your first one. Hey, you got 2 jobs. You're a transaction management. You do database and marketing. Which one do you like better? I love the transaction management. Great. Then hire for the other side. And now that transaction management can handle more. You can go out and sell more and continue the process going. Now, at some point, you're going to hit the next ceiling, which is you only have enough time to find buyers and take them out and find sellers and go meet with them. So you're going to hire, remember the 45 hours? We got rid of transaction management. The next big piece is 9 hours of showing homes. And getting rid of that next allows me to go from 45 hours and now I'm down to like 6 hours. That's a huge difference. As I take out 15 hours here and 9 or 10 hours here, I'm cutting that number down. Or maybe it's 15 hours, but whatever it is, it's cutting my time in each transaction down massively. So for me, that means I can be a better father. That means I can go out and sell more business.
Yeah, you're always, one of my mentors, this, Nick, and I'll try and connect some dots for people here. One of my mentors said, we're always trading time and money.
Yep.
That's it. So many people are worried about hiring, but you're literally just taking some of your money and trading it to get your time back. Mm-hmm. And one of the pieces is the activities you're trading your money for might be $20, $30, $40 an hour activities.
Yep.
But what have you found when you're selling real estate that you're making per hour?
So one thing about that is I want to make sure that you understand that there's a difference between an expense and an investment. If I said I've got this great stock and you give me, $500 in 3 years, I'll give you back $300. That's an expense. You don't want that. That's not going to make any sense. Sure. If I said you give me $500 and I'll turn around and give you $2,000 back in a year and a half, you're probably more interested in that because now you're getting a return on your money. So when you hire somebody, when you hire leverage, when you add people to your team, you have to know what the return on investment is. If I pay Chase $50,000 and I'm able to go generate $75,000 more in commission, then I just made $25,000. Does that make sense? Yep. If I do it in the exact same amount of time, I'm up $25,000. If it only takes me half the time to lead generate and find more business because that's my passion, that's what I'm good at, I'm in my zone when I'm doing it, now I get $25,000 plus 10 hours a week back or whatever that number is. So you have to understand when you invest in something, not an expense, when you invest, you need to get back one or both, time or money or both. So if I give it to him and now I have every evening to have dinner with my family and I value that, then the investment was great. It was so worth it to pay Chase because now I have time with my family. Or if I am, single and don't need any of that and I invest in Chase and I can turn around and sell twice as much real estate, I guarantee twice as much real estate, the commission earned is a lot more than I'm paying Chase. So just understand time and money. It's an investment.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a super, super powerful way to look at this. I had this limiting belief when I first hired. I was like, oh, I do my own TC work. And the guy's like, well, how much would it cost you to hire? And at the time, I'm like $20, $25 an hour. And he's like, well, here's the difference between you and me. You think you're saving $20 an hour. He's like, I know I'm losing $480 an hour because I can go make 500. You're trying to save 20, but I'm going to go make 500.
Yep.
And I love that you put it in there too, that you can also go spend time with your family, right? Because I know there's a lot of real estate agents out there right now that are like, well, I don't want to hire anyone because I don't want to sell more real estate. It's like, well, what if hiring that person actually gives you freedom and allows you to do more of the things you enjoy, whether it's with your friends, family, hobbies, or it could be selling more real estate. So,
and right. Sometimes building a real estate practice, it's a little abstract for some people. So let me make it in a much easier way to digest. I have an acre of land here in this beautiful home, and I would need to come home every weekend on a Saturday, put on some junky clothes, get out the tractor, take it around the yard for an hour and a half, clean up everything, regas it up, all that stuff, put everything away, come in, take a shower. Let's say it's 4 or 5 hours. Maybe it's 3 hours. I don't know. I don't cut my own grass right now. But instead, I work my tail off Monday through Friday. I have a company that comes and cuts the grass, and I have an additional 3 hours with my kids who are 6, 3, and 1. What do you think's more important? I pay $60 for them to cut the grass. So $20 an hour, basically. So I can spend my time 3 hours doing all that and maintaining the lawnmower and all the other nonsense, or I can come in and have 3 hours with my kids. Is it worth that $60 out of my pocket? 100% yes. So think about that now on a much bigger scale, hiring that transaction management, hiring that showing agent, whatever it may be. It's the same thing. We don't think about it because it seems so much more expensive to pay somebody $40,000 or $50,000 a year, but it's the exact same thing once you understand it.
So let's rewind, because we're talking pretty big picture, and I love this, by the way. I think for a lot of these agents out there who are hitting that ceiling, this is the right conversation for you. I hope you go back and watch this over and over again. But let's go back to you're a brand new agent. Yeah, you've got your mom, the mentor, but she's definitely not giving you business. We've already established that. So you've got some wisdom now. It might not be you might not consider yourself to be wise, but you're absolutely more wise than 20 years ago, Nick.
Oh, yeah.
We all know that. So what wisdom would you give yourself going back to the start? Let's not talk about leverage and going to 500. Let's just talk about, like, how can I hit the ground and get better results faster? Like, what's something you would have told yourself, or maybe a hack or something that you knew works really well and you just wish you would have figured it out quicker?
Yep. Hack is such a terrible word, because that gives us this impression that it's like some secret way that we can do it and make it easier, some certain pill that we can take and lose weight, which is probably happening now. It's an injection, but whatever. Like, we think there's this secret way. And even with the injection, if anybody's taking it, great. If you're not, you're not. But we have no idea what the long-term effect of that is.
Sure.
We know what it does right this second, but we don't know 20 years from now what that's going to look like. Where I do know, if eating right, going to the gym, working out, getting good sleep, getting good hydration, I know what that result is 20 years from now. But one is so much easier than the other, so we jump on the easy train. I told my team today, when you have two decisions in front of you and one of them you don't want to do, that's typically the one you should be doing. If your alarm clock goes off at 5 a.m. and your choices are go to the gym or stay in this nice, warm, cozy bed, the one you don't want to do is the one you should be doing. Now, don't steal this and go off and say, I can gamble my life savings because Nick said, do the one I shouldn't do or I don't want to do. Don't use it in a negative way, but think about, if I want to show homes or lead generate, most of us would say, I'd rather run around show homes because it's out there and you're social and you're around people. But what you should be doing is spending time building clients, spending time in your lead generation. Anyway, all that aside, if I could go back in time and tell myself, like, what's the one simplest thing you could do? It is 100%, beyond a shadow of a doubt, has everything to do with your database. It would be starting with 200 people that know, like, and trust me. And it doesn't mean 200 people that are ready to buy real estate with you. It may mean 200 people that know you, like you, and trust you and have no interest in real estate at the moment. But I want to put them in a system. I want to follow up consistently. I want to keep them aware of who I am and that I'm in real estate, because the average person has 4 to 8 real estate conversations a year. Now, not us. We have one every 8 seconds. But the average person is at work and somebody says, oh, we're thinking about moving, or is at the grocery store and they meet somebody. It's like, oh, we want to move out this way, whatever it is. It happens about 4 to 8 times. So let's just say it happens on the low end 4 times. So your database of 200 people, that means 800 times there's real estate brought up in a conversation. Now, have you done a good enough job with the people who already know, like, and trust you to build rapport and build trust in the real estate fashion where they go, oh, you're looking to buy? You should call my friend Nick. He's incredible. He's sold a bunch of houses. Like, he's definitely the one you should reach out to. And we realize that if we stay in relationship with people, and, like, when I say relationship, I mean this, like, in our Brivity Go app, whatever CRM you use, doesn't matter. We use Brivity. But if you go into Brivity Go, let's say I'm about to show a home. So I can drive to the home and get there 20 minutes early before my client gets there. I can click on a button and it'll tell me every one of my previous clients or anybody in my database that lives within a 10-mile radius of that house. And I will call each one of them and say, hey, Chase, I'm in your neighborhood. I'm just down the street showing this new house, and I thought of you guys. How are you? How's everything? All right, well, I won't keep you. Good talking. Now, what does Chase know? He's still in real estate. He must be busy. He's showing a home near me. When the conversation comes up at the hairdresser, I'm going to say, oh, you should call Nick. He was just down at that new house down the street. Oh, you should think like it's just a way to stay on top of mind. And then as you grow, every house you sell, you put them in there and then you put them on a follow-up plan. That's the worst. Is we all put people in our database and we're like, okay, I put them in. I'm going to go back and do something more fun now. And we never touch them again. We never have a follow-up plan. We're never inviting them to anything. And they wither away and die. So I took my top performers out on Thursday. We went to this, it's called Guntree. It is a gun country club. It's insane. It is like top of the line, everything. Anyway, we get to the front desk and the girl says, what's your name and what's an email? We're going to send you a waiver or whatever. And I said, Nick at WaldnerWintersTeam.com. And she said, Waldner Winters Team, I bought my house from that company. And I was like, really? Who is your agent? And she was like, Ryan. He texts me and calls me all the time. And I said, when did you buy your house? She said, 5 years ago. And I said, well, Ryan was supposed to come tonight and he canceled. So you're going to have to fire him. And now you get to work with me. And she said, oh, you're crazy. I love Ryan. He just reaches out all the time for no reason. And it was like, wow. Now that person, 5 years later, I said something to Ryan and he's like, yeah, I give her a call or a text every 90 days. And I've done it for the last 5 years. And now she always thinks of him. She remembered the Waldner Winters Team. Now, come on, let's be honest. Who in the right mind can remember that? I barely remember. Think about the last car you bought. What was your salesman's name?
Oof. Zero clue.
At the moment, you knew him, you called him, you were blah, 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 blah. And now you're like, I have no idea. How about this? Think of the last major surgery you had. You researched the doctor. You knew exactly who you wanted to go see. What's his name? What's her name? I had the tendon in my thumb replaced after winning a championship softball game in a very low level league. Doesn't matter.
Sounds super important.
Yeah, exactly. Really stupid. I pulled it back, ripped it in half. I went with the surgeon who works on the Ravens. And I had a special friend who connected me and got me in and blah, 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 blah. I have no idea what the guy's name was. It was super important at that moment. And now I don't remember anymore. And I don't remember because the doctor's not calling me every 90 days to check in on me.
Well, yeah, people just forget. Here's what I'm taking away, guys. And I think this is phenomenal, by the way, Nick. Like, he's literally telling you what is actually happening in real life. Like, this is real life stuff. People talk about the real estate agents. Like, that person checking you in is like a Google review that walks around and talks to people about the agent whenever real estate comes up.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like if think about this. If someone said like, hey, I'm looking to go, I want to go get some good Mexican food. Where should I go? Like, you're going to be like 2 or 3 spots. You are essentially advertising for that company. The same things happen with real estate agents, and this is just a perfect time to inject this. And I think this is like super powerful because it goes hand in hand. It can go the opposite way too. So, they're having these real estate conversations. If you go to book an appointment with someone and they're like, yeah, let's meet in a week or a month, they are now saying, hey, we're thinking about buying. Hey, we're thinking about selling, in all the conversations they're having. Yeah. And what do you think the people they're talking to are saying?
Oh, you should see my agent. You should meet my agent.
Exactly. And so now you're getting sold again. So speed to appointment is critical on the buy side, on the sell side. I don't care if they're looking to list in a year. Get with them right away. But the tangible advice, like the real life, real world advice, that's why this dude is selling 550 homes a year, is because it's very real. It's very, 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 very simple. And I'm so happy you went with database. I already know the answer to this, but of all these sources you've invested in, which one's giving you the greatest ROI?
So I'd love to tell you what mine is, but let me tell you what I learned from like when I was first starting to build a business. I'm a little crazy. Like I will go to masterminds. I'll get on a plane to go to any education. We met through a top mastermind. Like I meet people and that's now my lead generation. It used to be at, happy hours and social sports and trying to find people to buy or sell houses. Now I'm trying to get in a relationship with people who are selling 1,000 houses, 2,000 houses, 5,000 houses and understand what they're doing to get there. So I would go around the country and I would spend time at all these different masterminds and I'd leave with 2 or 3 people on my hit list. Like, man, they're crushing it. I want to be in relationship with them. I want to understand what they're doing. And I'd pick up the phone and I'd say, oh, hey, Ben Kinney, I'm gonna be in Washington next week randomly. I'd love to connect and kind of see your operation, see what you do. I have no reason to be in Washington State. I'm flying there to see Ben and his operation, but he's like, oh, this guy I met. Sure, yeah, come on in. And I'd show up at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I just wouldn't leave. I'd spend my entire day. I'm talking to his staff. I'm understanding what he's doing. And then it got late, and I'm like, hey, do you want to grab dinner? And he's like, yeah, I guess so. And I'd take him out to dinner, and I'd say, oh, you know what? I forgot to book a hotel room. I wonder where I'll stay. And then he's like, I mean, you can crash at my house. And I'm like, oh, that would be great. And then we'd spend time at night talking. The next morning, we'd get up and get a cup of coffee and we'd talk more. And I did this over time with a ton of top agents all the way around the country. And what I learned was every single one of them had their thing that they got on stage for. I do for sale by owners better than anybody. I run the tech world. I do PPC. I'm crushing it on social, all these different things. But when I dug into their real business and we saw where somewhere between 70 and 90% of their actual business came from, it was their database. It was what they grew. It was referral and repeat clients. And we get them on stage when they're talking about, I was on stage last week and it was, last week, our Google reviews, we have 1,700 plus Google reviews. And people are like, that's amazing. Get on stage and talk about it. But if you break down my numbers, our Google leads are 9% of our total business. 9%. Now, that's still a big number, and that's a great number to have. But the other 72%, and I know that doesn't equal 100 because there's some other lead stuff in there, but 72% of them come in referral and repeat. So what do you want to do? Do you want to follow my Google strategy? Or do you want to first go back to my database strategy that is producing the majority of my results, but standing up on stage and having every single person talk about that is boring. So we look for the highlight thing that's like, oh, that's cool. Let's chase that. When in reality, every single one of these people who weirdly let me sleep on their couch when I was single and getting my business started, every one of them, it was database, referral, and repeat. And I'm no different.
All right. One sentence or less. What's the number one reason why you think so many realtors don't make it past their first year in real estate?
Yep. Easy. It's lift. And what I mean by lift, if you look at one of Elon's rockets, so let's call it the Falcon X. In that rocket, there is about 3,600 I don't know whatever 3,600 units of propellant. That's what gets the rocket from here to the moon. Now here's the insane part. From here to the moon takes a 3-day trip on a rocket. They burn 75% of their fuel in the first 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So the energy to get just up off the ground and into space is 2 minutes and 40 seconds worth, and it's 75% of the fuel payload. And then the other 25% takes them all the way to the moon. And what we do as agents, and as especially newer agents, man, I've been dialing for almost a week now. I don't have any business. I have been hammering the phones for a month. I don't have any business. I have sat 8 open houses and don't have any business. And we're not realizing that we've burned 5% of our fuel. We need to burn 75% of it to get that lift off, to get up and moving. So this business, very easy to get into. It's like 60 hours of classwork. Okay, easy enough. Very hard to get traction. Very hard to get outside of the atmosphere. And until you break the atmosphere, that's when things start really moving for you, because you have the momentum. But you've got to stop thinking the momentum's going to come any sooner. You've got to waste 75% of your propellant before it starts happening. Does that work?
Yeah, that's incredible, man. It's way less friction once you get in orbit, but it's going to take you a lot of energy to get there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Once things are moving, once your referrals and repeats are coming in, once you have clients that have been in their house 5 to 7 years and their business starts flowing back to you, now things are running so much smoother and so much easier. But that first 5 years, when every house you sold, none of them are coming back to sell because they're still loving their house. That first 5 years is tough. That first 5 years, and especially the first 2 years.
all right, you heard it. Get energy. You got to expend energy, and it's going to come back to you. So we're wrapping this up here. As we wind down, is there anything that we should have mentioned or that you really want to get out there that kind of some last parting words for all these real estate agents out there who are watching this?
Yeah, I ran a mastermind earlier today, and I was listening to somebody who asked a question, and they asked a question with a fixed mindset. Well, I do blah, 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 and this is how it works, and this is all the greatness about it, and blah, 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 blah. And I realized they were lacking curiosity. They were thinking that they already know everything. And the fact is, things are changing quickly. And what they were describing is something that we've all done for probably the last 10 years. And the reality is that's not exactly the way we do it anymore. There's been numerous updates and changes. But if you don't lower your ego and stay learning based, you're going to start thinking you already know. You already know. You already know. You're wrong. I've been doing this 20 years. Every single day I find something that I'm like, wow, I never saw it that way. I never tried it that way. Oh, I like the way they said that. And I'm constantly learning based. I still, to this day, jump on a plane and fly to different masterminds and go to different groups. And I have all these different examples of places that I'm going to learn. Not going to talk, I'm going to learn. I'm just as excited to be in an audience as I am to be on stage. In fact, if I'm going to be on stage somewhere, I'm also going to be staying for the next 2 days because I want to be in the audience and listening to what other people and taking notes and all that stuff. So I think you have to stay curious. You have to stay learning based, and you have to avoid your ego. There's a book Ryan Holiday wrote. It's called Ego is the Enemy. Short read for not smart people, but really powerful in how much our ego gets in the way of our success. So if you haven't read that, go out and get that. If you're younger, you're in your 20s, there's a book called The Defining Decade, Why Your 20s Matter. And the premise is all around this is the time to learn. This is the time to experiment. This is the time to take risks and fail. Like, get out there and start doing that. So stay curious, stay learning based, take risks, fail things, get back up. Just don't give up.
That's incredible advice. And I realize there's one more question that I needed to
No,
ask
you
you.
said one more question 3 times. No,
Yep. Here comes the one more question. You know, I'm a slow learner just like you. So it's actually about the slow learning. You know, you mentioned the boyfriend thing, like terrible boyfriend, right? It took you 3 times. You mentioned hiring. It took you 3 times. Here's a question for you. You've got a business that's doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the thing that you're learning right now? What's the story you're going to tell 5 years from now? It took me 3 times before I learned this lesson. What are you in the process of right now?
Yeah, it's my leadership style and how to become a more, I guess, a more open leader. There's a phrase for it. It escapes me at the moment, but in the past, I've been a very transactional leader. So you come to me with a problem, we discuss it, I give you an answer, and you walk away, and now you can solve that. And I'm not empowering you to learn how to think more. I'm not giving you more opportunity to fail. As a leader, I'm only here because of all the failures that I had to endure and learn through. And yet, when you come to me with a problem, I don't want to see you fail. So I'm almost like that helicopter parent where I'm jumping in to save you. And the reality is, I need to step back and let you have your failure, because that's the moment that you grow. And it's hard when you're running a business and you don't want to see the business fail. You don't want to see mistakes made. So you want to jump in and stop it. And the reality is, you're not teaching people how to think. You're actually being so transactional by giving them answers that every time they have a question, every time they have a problem, you are the bottleneck. They have to go through you before they can actually get anything done. So taking myself out and allowing people to make those mistakes, to have those failures, to build themselves or grow as a leader, that's probably the number one thing that I'm struggling with and working on at the same time.
Hey, that's great perspective, and really what you're trying to do is save them the pain that you had, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you realize that pain is probably what's going to help them grow.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
this has
Same thing
been,
with our kids. We got to let
oh
them
yeah,
have those failures.
yeah, this has been incredible, Nick. I truly appreciate you coming on here, and you are a real estate titan. It's very, very fitting to have you here. And I hope you guys learned as much as I did. I'm going to go back and watch a couple of these parts because I really, really like the way that you logically think about the business. It's so simple. Maybe it's because you're simple. I'm kidding. No, he's
Hey, you know what?
obviously
Let's
very
be honest.
smart.
I did like your shoes. Okay, there
Oh,
it
okay, okay, cool. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe in Vegas, I'll bust him out again. So,
is.
thank you guys for checking this out. Really appreciate it. If you need any more information or want to watch the other Real Estate Titan videos, you guys can do that at Real Estate Growth Forum. And thank you again, Nick. Where would they refer you if they want to refer your business? Like, what do they do?
Yeah, so we're anywhere in Maryland, the whole state of Maryland. And Chase, let's put you on the spot. There's 5 states that
Oh my
border
gosh.
Maryland. Name 2.
Name 2, dude. You did this to me before, and I've already forgotten. Like I'm terrible at this. Like I'm like, okay, it's in the East Coast, Northeast. I don't know. I know nothing. I'm gonna let you guys write in the comments in the chats how you're way smarter than I am at this. Name 2. New York. Does New York touch it?
No.
Okay. Well,
So all
I'm
you
out.
need to know, guys, is Washington, D.C., which is dead center of the East Coast. We're the northern border of D.C. So right there, D.C., West Virginia, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. That's where we are, dead center of the
Beautiful.
East Coast. Anywhere in Maryland, if you hear Maryland, give us a shout. Nick at WaldnerWinnersTeam.com. If you need anything, reach out.
All right. Hey, thanks so much, Nick. Have a great day, guys, and hope you guys learned a lot.
Take care, guys.
All right.